What's going on YouTube? This is UK, and the discussion at hand today is games getting dumbed down, and in the discussion we have today is, go on, introduce yourself guys.
I'm Gondul. I have a LP channel and I do other things, so yeah.
And I'm Netherbat, and I basically just do LPs.
Okay, and the games we listed out was Crysis 2, Duke Nukem Forever, Fallout 3, Oblivion, DC Universe Online, Final Fantasy 13, Dragon Age 2, and Killzone 3. So yeah, guys, what did you think of Crysis 2?
Crysis 2 overall was just completely dumbed down compared to the original Crysis, and one of the major problems it had was the fact that it was built from the ground up for the console in mind, and then just ported over to the PC. I think the thing that stood out mainly the most to me when I first played the game was the tutorial level, and ever since then it was just unbearable at how horribly dumbed down it was. So yeah, I guess Noah, you can talk next.
Yeah, I guess the worst part about it for me was it was built for consoles and not for PCs like the first one was. And the tutorials really don't bother me that much, but it did seem like it was meant to be just on consoles. It didn't seem like they put any effort into the PC version.
Yeah, definitely.
Another thing as well, what was on the PC version Crysis, destructible environment as well.
Yeah, you couldn't destroy any trees barely in Crysis 2, and the destructibility, like when they first announced that Crysis 2 was going to take place in New York, I was like, holy shit, that's going to be badass. Destructible environments in New York, that'd be awesome.
I remember the first trailer. It looked pretty interesting.
Exactly, and then
you can't even shoot little twigs down.
Yeah, and it's disgusting because like one time I remember I destroyed a APC or whatever the fucking giant thing is that shoots you with a Gatling gun, and it blew up right next to like a little like hut building that normally in Crysis 2 would destroy itself if an explosion was near it. Didn't even break. Not even the glass in the wall broke.
It just goes to show like how if you have good marketing skills, you know, you can get away with selling a crappy dumbed down game, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
And yeah, let's move on to the next game, Duke Nukem Forever.
Oh god.
So yeah, what's your guys' take on it?
Alright, this is coming from a guy that grew up on Duke Nukem, and this is Duke Nukem 3D was one of my favorite games, FPS wise. Probably my number one favorite because it was my first FPS was Doom 2, but that's a whole different story. But anyways, Duke Nukem Forever has one of the weirdest problems with it in the fact that it was being developed so long over a long period of time, and the finished product just felt like Gearbox took a giant dick and just raped the fucking...
Was it 10 years in development?
Pretty much, yeah.
About, it was 15.
Yeah, 15 years.
Okay, yeah.
And, you know, I think the main problem that stuck out to me the most was the fact that, one, it had recharging health. Two, you could only carry 2 weapons at a time. And I remember Gearbox in interviews when they announced that they were they were finishing the product for 3D Realms, that they said that the main goal we want is to make this feel like Duke Nukem. And I was saying, well, if this is Duke Nukem, he should be able to carry every single fucking weapon. If not, then that he just feels severely gimped. Like, this is Duke Nukem. I mean, come on. I mean, he should be able to carry every single damn weapon that is available to him. And the weapons themselves were really, really shit. I mean, you could go out through the entire game with just the shotgun. There was no incentive to use the Shrink Ray or any of the other weapons. The Devastator, which I didn't like how they changed the look of the Devastator at all. But yeah, you can go on, Noah.
Well, I originally pre-ordered the game like 15 years ago when they announced the damn thing. And, you know, waiting 15 years, it obviously wasn't going to live up to the hype, but I didn't think it'd be as bad as it was. I got the PS3 version in the end because pretty much all my friends were getting it on there, so I got it so I could play with them. And my main complaint is the loading screens. It takes about a minute to load up a level, and that's just horrible nowadays. And the graphics too, it looks like it'd be fine for like 2005, 2006, but it looks like complete shit now.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I've really got no take in it because I've never really been a massive fan of Duke Nukem. Like I've just liked I'm a fan of his quotes like "come get some" and all that shit because that I just love those. It makes the game alive. And yeah, you guys are right. You know, it seemed like they took a lot of aspects that made the game fun, where you're limited to carry amount of certain weapons and all that, etc. You know.
And the
So
thing
yeah, let's
is,
move on.
well,
Yeah, go on.
well, one more thing before we move on is the actual source code and the way the game was developed by 3D Realms. They actually developed the entire game from the ground up, so where you could have multiple weapons, like in the first like Duke 3D game.
Yeah,
And what it seems like Gearbox did, since they obviously did not touch anything, they were saying, "Oh, we're bringing it to the mainstream audience," and they're saying, well, "Don't worry, we're not going to screw with anything." Well, they obviously didn't touch anything. I don't know why their name is even on the title itself. They didn't do anything except make recharging health and remove the weapons. And you can tell that the game was developed for multiple weapons because the way the levels are strung out, you can tell that it would not work with just two weapons in mind. And that's why they released a patch for the PC version. Excuse me, that was weird. They released a patch where you can carry now 4 weapons at once, only for the PC version, of course. They're just idiots. But you can go
Yeah.
on to the next game.
all right. Yeah, next game, Fallout 3.
All right, again, this is coming from a guy that pretty much grew up on Fallout 2. I never played Fallout 1 when it was released, but I had Fallout 2, and that is still my favorite Fallout game. And you know, there's nothing wrong with Fallout 3. It's just the fact that it says Fallout 3 on the title. If anything, that this is a spin-off. There's nothing connected to the original Fallout games besides Dogmeat and Herald. Other than that, there's no connection whatsoever than the setting, the ghouls, and all that shit. Also, I'm glad they removed most of the level scaling problems of Oblivion, which we'll get into later when we move to that game. But overall, just Fallout 3 just kind of felt like just a average RPG at best. I mean, they removed traits, they removed the actual good leveling up system. Basically, they dumbed it down to where like you get like I think you get I don't remember, you get like 10 or 20 skills to put into like 20 points every level, and you get perks at every level now instead of like every other level. And it just felt really dumbed down compared to Fallout 2. So yeah, that's my
Yeah.
take on it.
So yeah,
Um,
yeah, go on.
my main thing about it was just that on the PC version it was buggy as hell.
Yeah,
Even with all the patches they released, they still didn't fix some of the main glitches, like including the loading times. Not the loading times, but when it's loading different chunks of like when you're out in the wasteland. It has like a really high chance of crashing. It's like an 80% chance of it to crash.
yeah.
And they had to make a user patch, and even then, it still wasn't that good.
Yeah, one more thing I have to say is I'm a guy, you know, that really likes small, concise interfaces, and I never liked the interface in Oblivion. I never liked the interface in Fallout 3 or New Vegas. And but most people know if they're a PC gamer and they buy a Bethesda game, you're gonna have to download a shit ton of mods to actually make the game worthwhile. That's just common knowledge now. But I mean, like, it's just I hate having to scroll through dialogue when you can obviously fit every single dialogue option on the screen. That's why I like the Darn UI mod for Fallout 3. If anybody hates the UI like me on Fallout 3, get that. And that's about it. I mean, other than
Yeah.
that, it's a pretty okay game overall.
All right, yeah. All right, moving on to the next game, Oblivion.
Oh yeah.
What's your guys' take on it?
Well, my take is on it again. My first Elder Scrolls was Daggerfall, and you know, Daggerfall worked fine back then because to make handcrafted environments back then would have been way too hard for them to do. And so then you go to Morrowind when they first announced that this is going to be a fully handcrafted 3D environment. And Morrowind, it shows. Almost every single town, dungeon, and environment in Morrowind felt unique. Oblivion, on the other hand, it seems like they dropped that motif and just went the copy and paste route again. And it's just severely, severely boring as shit. The RPG systems, I mean, it keeps the motif of Elder Scrolls where you can be what you want, but even then, it's not even fun. I mean, the game is severely gimped. I have it on the highest difficulty, and the only way the game is actually hard is if I get Oscuro's Oblivion Overhaul, and Martigen's Monster Mod. Other than that, the game is severely easy. The main quest itself is completely piss poor. All the guilds have been dumbed down. There's only the Mages Guild, Thieves Guild, Dark Brotherhood, and the Fighters Guild in this game. When in Morrowind and Daggerfall, they had shit tons of factions. They had guilds for the werewolves and the different types of lycanthropy diseases that you could get in Daggerfall. Morrowind had the Morang Tong and other, thieves type guild factions, and overall the game is just complete shit. And I hate it when people say like, "Oh, Oblivion's the best RPG ever." Like, to be honest, I really wouldn't list it as an RPG, but yeah, that's my take on it.
All right, Noah, what about you?
Well, Casey pretty much said all the
All right,
main
yeah,
points
moving
that I
on,
had.
moving on. Yeah, the next game I'm about to announce, I can imagine a lot of PC gamers really, really are frustrated about, which is DC Universe. And PC gaming is known for its MMOs, and it seems, and I'll let Casey follow up on this because he knows a lot about MMOs and all those sort of games. So yeah, Casey,
Yeah.
what's your take on DC Universe?
DC Universe is a good game at its heart. I was actually in the closed beta, and the beta in itself was fun because again I'm a DC fanboy. I love Batman, so right then they had me hooked.
Yeah,
But the main problem is communication.